Good morning, dear students. Welcome to Unit 5, Historical Events in China. That's Part 2 and our Lesson 2. Before we begin the lesson, there are certain reminders. In today's lesson, we'll cover the last 2 pages of our Unit 5, Historical Events in China, Part 2. So we'll be doing GS book pages 28, 29. Here we'll look at Marco Polo, the traveler who spent some time in China and how did he contribute. We'll also look at the Imperial Palace in Beijing. And then in today's lesson, your GS homework will be page 12 and 13 in your GS workbook. I have uploaded GS workbook pages 12 and 13. And you need to do the pages probably online or print them and upload them for the teacher to mark those pages. The last point, news sharing by volunteer students. Now, many times it has happened that news sharing, we start from the beginning and we go till number 1, 2, 3. And we do not proceed further because number 1, 2, 3, they have not submitted the news sharing. And so either like we start from the front and get stuck, we start from the back and get stuck. And there are many students whose numbers are never called because there are so many students before or after them who haven't done the news sharing. So this time we'll try a volunteer news sharing. Any student who is interested in sharing a news and students whose names or numbers have not been called out so far, please volunteer your news clipping and we can share it with everyone else. Now, those students who have already done the news sharing can also join and present their news to others. Before we proceed further, let's recap the last lesson. In last lesson, Unit 5, we looked at the Tang and the Song dynasties. By this, we understand the historical meaning of heritage. What is heritage? And we can study Chinese history through timeline and other information. If you can see the timeline here, the Tang dynasty started in 618 AD and it lasted till 907 AD. And the Song dynasty 960 AD and it lasted till 1279 AD. So that's the timeline when these people, the emperors, ruled China. And during these times, we can see that how cultural exchanges were promoted with foreign countries. And we can also learn about the loyal Song officials. Who are the 2 loyal Song officials that we learned about? Look at page 27 and you can see 2 pictures. One is a Song of Righteousness by a poet, Wen Tianxian. He's a very famous Song official who happened to be in the Song dynasty. And another was Yu Fei. I'm sure all of you must have watched the video about Yu Fei and why he was so famous, and he's like an epitome of loyalty in that time. During that time, he was a role model. By learning about such people, we can appreciate the loyalty of ancient people. We also learned that the cultural exchanges were very significant to the country's future development and how the cultural exchanges of art, culture, different beliefs, different commodities helped the West and the East to kind of know better about each other, get a better understanding, understand other people's culture, its significance, and how they can adapt it to their culture and their belief. So it was a very popular and very significant step during the reign of Emperor Taishang, where such cultural exchanges were promoted. And famous people who have promoted cultural exchange between China and foreign countries One here in this picture you see is Zhuangshang. He went to China, he went to India, sorry, from China to learn more about Buddhism, and he brought Buddhist scriptures to China. And there's a famous story which is made into a movie, and it's called Journey to the West. I'm sure most of the students have read the book or watched the movie or the animation. There's a cartoon on this as well. So this is the recap of last week's lesson where we learnt about Tang Dynasty, Song Dynasty, important officials, the cultural exchanges, the significance of cultural exchanges, and few other things. And in this lesson, we learn about three other dynasties. We learn about Yuan, Ming, and the Qing dynasties. In this picture, if you look at it, we are talking about Yuan dynasty, which started in 1271 AD to 1368 AD. Now, Yuan dynasty had a vast territory, stretching from Asia to Europe. The picture that you see on your left is a picture of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was a very famous leader during his time, and he belonged to a race called Mongol race. That means people came from the Mongolian region in China, and this Mongol people, this race was a nomadic tribe. Do you know what nomadic tribe is? What nomads are? You should know, because that's something we learned in Unit 1 and 2. Nomads are people who are not stationed in one place. They move around from one place to another place depending on the climates. So Mongol race was a nomadic tribe. Its people were very good at archery and fighting, and they had won a lot of battles because of their skills. Yuan dynasty was ruled by Mongolian people. And during this time, network with other parts of the world was established. That means they try connect to people from other parts of the world. Why did they do that? Because to promote economic and cultural exchanges between different countries. And because of this indirectly encouraged integration of different races in China. In this slide, we look at two culturally significant events that took place during Yuan dynasty. One is Marco Polo. Now, the picture that you see on top and the picture of Marco Polo is on your left. Now, he was a well-known traveler and he was explorer, and Marco Polo headed for China along the Silk Road in the Yuan dynasty during the Yuan dynasty. Now, he was born a merchant in a family in Venice, and his father and uncle often traded into the west coast of Mediterranean Sea. Marco Polo traveled to China because he was very much impressed with the empire's paper money, efficient communication system, the gunpowder, paper technology, and porcelain, and he called Xanadu the greatest palace that ever was. Below is a link to know more about Marco Polo, the traveler. So please click on the link and watch the video. The Forbidden City, the picture that you see, is the third imperial palace to have been built in Beijing. The first was built during the Jin dynasty, the second during Yuan dynasty, and the third, the Forbidden City, was built during the Ming dynasty. Throughout their history, Forbidden City has been the capital of China, and it made China the strongest and wealthiest country in the world. Click on the link below to learn more about Forbidden City in Beijing. In this slide, we'll look at Ming and Qing dynasties. Here in this slide, we'll do something called self-learning. You see 4 different pictures and there are 4 questions. This is a portrait of Zheng He on your left hand side, and he's famous for his sea journeys. Now the question is, how many times did Zheng He travel to the Western Ocean? And what was the farthest continent that he reached? So you need to do research and get these two answers. And also try and learn more about Sun Bao. Type the words Sun Bao and see what you come up with. On your right hand side, we have the Qing dynasties, and there are two pictures. On the top, you can see a landform, a picture with an army of people, and you can see horses there. It shows the hunting activity of the emperor of the Qing dynasty. It looks like quite strange, right? Elaborate for a hunting ritual. Is this a ritual or what was it? Why there were so many people involved in hunting? Usually the emperors just take a small team and go hunting, but here you see it's like a war. It's like, small army of soldiers and hunters. Just check it out, what exactly they're doing and which race established the Qing dynasty. Was it the Mongol race, or was it the Han race, or which race means the people? What kind of people they were? Which tribe did they belong to? And you also need to discuss, why did the emperors of the Qing dynasty have to adopt the cultures of the Han race? Now you see a picture of Emperor Kangxi. He's studying something